apologize. Please tell everybody to like and subscribe to Serious.
I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, subscribe, and share Serious and Silliness, and do it now or you're missing out.
Thank you very much. They go, fuck it. If this is going to make me money, then I'm doing it. And they dive headfirst into the fetish thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, I had, what is her name? Carol Bennett, I believe, who was a competitive bodybuilder. She's not pro, but she's a friend of Rita West, and she's very, very muscular. She's very big. And we actually looked it up together while we were doing it. And I asked her what her strangest request was from, her DMs and so on and so forth. And it was referred to as ball busting. And she said, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And we actually looked it up, how much a session is. And obviously, you know what ball busting is. I don't have to be specific, right? And the first number that came up, I don't know who the girl was, but she charged like over $1,000 for an hour of doing this. And then it went down to 400, 300, 400, 500. But I just couldn't believe the amount of money that these girls make doing it. I don't know if you ever watched Generation Iron, and I've also said this. I actually had King Kamali on. I don't know if you ever watched that King Kamali interview with Generation Iron, when he talked about his friend who was a pro bodybuilder, but he left the name out. And they would work out together. And it was a girl. They would do like morning cardio together. And every day she would have a bag, like an Adidas zipper bag, but she wouldn't put it in the locker. She would always keep it with her. So after a day or two, he said, what's in the bag? And she goes, you really want to know? He goes, yeah. So he goes, open it. Now, this is back when he was like at the top, when he was an elite bodybuilder. So this was like, 20 years ago, right? So there was no Cash App or Venmo or anything like that. So she goes, open it. So he opens it, and it's all cash, a duffel bag full of cash. And he goes, would you rob a bank? And the girl goes, no, I am part of, at the time they called the dark web. Mm-hmm. And these guys pay me to do these fetish things, and she wasn't sleeping with them. Yeah. She was arm wrestling them. She was wrestling them. There was muscle worship. And, the list goes on. So what I wanted to ask you is, do you get these requests? And what are some of the stranger ones that you've had?
I knew you were going to ask me this. So I actually haven't had that many, partly because I just instant delete most of my messages on Instagram. And I get, 20 requests a day for engagement, whether, you missed a video chat, good riddance. I just,
I got you. Okay.
And I'm getting pictures sent, and they block the content and that sort of thing. I only see just the beginning, and then that's when some will leak through, because I see that they're legit people that, that's how I did a different podcast. And this is, I saw your message too early on and went, okay, this seems legit as well, but I wasn't sure. And then, so most of those are just deleted. So I actually don't read those requests.
Okay.
But some that I opened up and went, oh.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, okay. Socks. They want my worn socks.
Oh, like from the gym or something?
Dirty socks.
Oh.
And right. Okay. So this is what's interesting though. And this is a side trivia note for you. Even if they wanted my shirts, South Koreans, the majority of us have, and I got at least 50% of this, don't have a gene that we don't have armpit odor.
Really?
It's I know it sounds fake, but it's the ABCC11 gene. And it also is linked to dry earwax. So dry versus the sort of wet, greasy earwax.
Really?
Dry earwax and no BO. So it's really hard to find deodorant in South Korea. But anyway.
That's interesting.
So if I gave them my shirts, same with my socks, it's going to smell like laundry, clean laundry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I feel like if I sent him my socks, he'd be like, I want my money back because these aren't. I'd have to have someone else wear the socks. Be like, yeah, okay, I'm sending him these. He's going to love these. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He's not going to believe me. So I can't make any money on socks because I can't make them stinky, or shirts. I do get asked for private cam sessions, and
Okay.
I just go, if I actually even respond, I usually go, no, I don't.
Right.
And then, this was the weirdest one, and it was one that I found alarming, and I was hoping that it was lost in translation,
Mhm.
because I think he was from another country, I believe India, but I didn't know what the context was and whether English was second language.
That's very common, the Middle Eastern,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And if I did, and what if I'm just misinterpreting it? But it clearly said this: would you use your might to beat on a 12-year-old girl?
Oh my God. Like, oh,
Am I misinterpreting it? Maybe, because it wasn't perfect English. I was like, how could I make a case for this? How do you even interpret that?
my
Would you
God.
would you use your might to beat a 12-year-old girl, as if it was could we set this up? I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Wow.
So that was probably my oddest one.
Wow.
I
My
actually
God.
I screenshot it, I sent it to my buddies, like, keep that for legal purposes, just in case. But that's a strange one.
Wow. That is, you know, the more that I have this podcast and more interesting people that I interview, the
Mm,
more the more people that I, the there's some really, really strange, touched individuals out there.
yes, I
And
felt that one was very disturbing. Everything else I feel is pretty. It's it's fine. I know that people have certain body fetishes. I love to hear when Dave Chappelle talks about his foot fetish.
okay.
Yeah.
That's very
That's
common with men.
Yeah, that space between their feet. It's so cute. Uh, so funny. But I think that, I mean, I can talk that way. I don't kink shame. I don't all of those things, those interests, those fetishes appeal. They're not the only ones. So they find people that have that same fetish. So they're not a team of one. They're And I think to myself, how it's not all that different from what we do as bodybuilders, in the sense that, except for we don't do it for a sexual purpose,
Hmm.
but instead of one focusing on one body part, we want all of ours to be magnified.
Hmm. Well, I'll give you one example where I think it's okay to kink shame, especially since you're a vet, because
I do have one that I shame a bit, so we'll talk about that.
okay, good. And this, I also asked the same question to another female bodybuilder. I will not release her name because then she's going to know who she is, and I don't want to do that because she told me off camera. Um, she had a request. Somebody asked her to be naked, wear high heels, and for I think it was $5,000, step on a kitten with her heels and kill the kitten. And she said, "No, absolutely not. I'm not doing that." And he went up to 8,000, and she goes, "I don't care how much you offer me. I'm not doing that. There's no way in hell I'm doing that." This guy wanted her to kill a kitten with her heels, stepping on. I'm like, my God, I couldn't wrap my head around it.
I know there are people that are probably genuinely interested in that, but is it also possible that he wanted to test the limits of how much she would do?
That's possible, but she had to think that up. I wouldn't
Well,
even, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even like, I don't know, maybe I'm very simple, but when it comes to sex, I kind of like, just the straight for like, I found out through all this that what I thought were fetishes are not fetishes. They're just preferences. So I like a certain body type. I like when a girl has nice hands and nice feet. I like a girl that is comfortable in her own skin, so that when we're in the bedroom, she's, if I tell her to do something, it's within reason. Obviously, it's no problem. Whatever, blah blah blah. Anybody who's uncomfortable is an immediate turn off.
right.
I mean, and then I realized that no, these things are like they're not fetishes. their preferences. There's a big difference. And then I also took a breath and I was like, ooh, I'm not that strange. Okay, good.
I'm vanilla.
Yeah, I don't need therapy. Thank God. Okay.
Well, okay, so I will say this. So we go from fetish to, this is new for me, this whole, now that I'm on Instagram. I actually got asked to go on Instagram by another pro who I met at Olympia, who I was like, oh, I was fanning out. But it was Brandon Ray. He's just like, I love him so much. He's such a good guy.
Brandon Ray?
Brandon Ray. And so he said, are you on Instagram? I'll add you. And I'm like, I don't have an Instagram. And he's like, you need to get on Instagram. So I did. And that was because of him that I started.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually trained Angela Yao.
Oh, and it's Ray, because I thought you were going to say Brandon Curry. It's R-E-Y or R-A-Y?
R-A-Y.
R-A-Y.
Dude's really cool. And
white guy or
black guy?
Black guy?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. I don't know. I'll probably get it.
He hasn't done a show in a long time.
Is he a bodybuilder, open bodybuilder?
Yes, he's a beast.
I'll find it.
He's been working on in his like cave. I would be thrilled to see him back on stage again because it's been a while, but he's amazing. So, so I went, and so this is a new world for me, seeing this whole female bodybuilder fetish or that sort of thing. But I came over from when there's also Asian fetishes. So,
okay.
So I think I've always been accustomed to having to weed out people that had ulterior motives.
Right.
Actually getting to know the person that's there.
It's so funny because I always say, maybe it's me because I don't know what women go through. Because I always say, when sometimes I see a girl at the gym and then, I see her every day and I'm like, why doesn't she say hello? I try to say hello and she doesn't say hello. And it's totally innocent. I'm just trying to say hello. It's like you see somebody every single day at the same time, or 4 or 5 days a week. And it would seem rude if you don't say hello. Yeah. That's how I look at it. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe it's just because I don't know. I don't understand what, you ladies go through, because, because the more I speak to women that are fit and so on and so forth, the more I hear more and more and more about this kind of thing. And I'm like, maybe that's the case. Maybe the case is they just rather not engage because they've had so many negative engagements. I don't know.
I tend to be pretty friendly and engage with people because I feel like if they meet, what if that's the first time they're meeting someone, or it's the first time they're actually saying, I want to go say hi to her, right? Because she looks like she really works out. And then I'm that first engagement with that person. I would hate for, and also I'm not a famous IFBB pro, but I do feel like I'm part of that league, and I want to represent it in a positive manner. So I want them to have an experience that says she's all right,
Good. So then the girls that don't say hello are just bitches then.
They may be working with some different issues. I'm so blessed, as I said, to not have really bad interactions with people. I think that I have a demeanor about me that I feel like I'm very approachable, but
I think so. You're very friendly, and I mean, and the conversation is fantastic, and you have there's plenty of topics you can speak on. I mean, and speak on intelligently.
I hope so. Not astrophysics, but I've got my weak spots in geography.
Yeah.
But I feel like, what was that saying that I really liked is that, am I intimidating? Are you just intimidated? That puts it on the other person because I don't feel like I can be dominant. But what's interesting about it is, and I tell people this, I'm only 5'3", though. When you see me in person, you're just like, oh, she's pint sized.
I'm
I'm
going.
fun size.
Yeah, no,
But
you're. Yeah,
they say that I'm physically intimidating, and I'm like, no,
no.
you should speak to me because
Now
my mind is the thing that's scary.
you're talking about men talking to you, right?
I think just people in general.
Well, I'm gonna try to explain and defend men at the same time as to why men don't approach women as much as they used to, and not nearly as much as they used to. First of all, the majority of people meet online now, dating apps, so on and so forth. And when you use dating apps, you don't have to worry about being embarrassed if a girl rejects you, or because one of the things that women don't understand, or women don't understand because they don't go through it, is that we really get embarrassed when a woman rejects you, or so on and so forth. You just learn to deal with it as you get older, you know. And so majority of guys are more comfortable meeting people online now, and it just so happens that the large majority of people meet online now. The very few people meet socially in a social atmosphere. Couple that with the Me Too movement, okay, and then there have been, I'm not saying all the time, there are plenty of guys that are pieces of shit, but there are plenty of times where false allegations have been brought onto by men.
I understand that.
You know, then put on top of generations of emasculating men, basically telling men not to be masculine, to embrace your feelings, to get in touch with your feminine side, so on and so forth. Well, I got news for you. Approaching women and asking a woman confidently out comes with masculinity. So if you generally pull that out, right? If you emasculate men, right? And it had, I see it in the generations. I could see the young guys, how different they are from how I grew up, and how even different from when my father grew up, the end of the World War II generation, right?
Very different.
So you put all that together, and you get men that go, you know what? I'm better off just meeting somebody online. Forget it. I'm not going to approach, right? I mean, I'm married now, so I have not, but what I try to tell the young guys at the gym or whatever is, I was like, you got to understand that if this is the case, if young men aren't approaching young women face to face, you got to understand that if you do decide to approach right, confidently, respectfully, you're going to put yourself in a position where one of two things is going to happen. She's going to be freaked out because, my God, this guy's actually talking to me, or she's actually going to be turned on that you actually have the confidence to come up to her and talk to her.
Yeah.
And just, we're like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you. I noticed you from across the room. You look really great. And I want, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So one of those two things, whereas when I was young, that's the only way. And then you would literally be like a pain in the ass. Oh, another guy, get away from me.
You know what you could tell those young guys as well, because they'll just pay it forward and just tell them, if you never ask, the answer is always no.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In person.
Yeah. And
but then there's the modern woman too, that if I like someone, I'm the kind of girl that I'll ask.
Yeah.
I just don't see.
Well, you're the exception to the rule, because majority of girls, even when they're young, even the young generation, from what I see, they like to be the prize. So they like to be the ones.
They need to get off their ass if they want to.
That's the truth.
Don't be so lazy, and don't expect. Offer to pay, like Dutch, to offer to at least go Dutch, even if you're hoping that he pays for the whole thing. Right. I think that it's just good form to come to the table as an equal and not expect the scales to already be imbalanced.
Yeah. Do you know how many?
That's not fair.
Let's be frank here. If you were on a date, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going Dutch, and a guy went Dutch with you, or you paid for it, I understand you'd be okay with that. But then if you meet a guy who says, I'm going to take you to this restaurant, I made the reservations, I'll pick you up at such and such a time, and then pays for everything, wouldn't that be more attractive?
I'm still going to offer to pay my.
Right, but he's going to say no, as opposed to the guy that takes it. Wouldn't that be more attractive?
Depends on the guy.
So the guy that
Because if a guy doesn't have the means to do that, but I still like the guy, it's not about how much money he makes. It's about what he brings to the table otherwise. So
yeah,
I wouldn't judge him for that. Also, because I make enough on my own.
Right, I understand. Right, exactly. But as you're not going to date somebody who's broke. I mean, everybody has preferences and so on and so forth. So that's the exception to the rule. So what I'm trying to say is a guy who is, because earlier in the conversation, you said you wanted a guy who's more alpha, who's more masculine, who's more of a leader. And that guy is going to, if you do really meet a guy like that, he is going to say, you know, what are you doing Saturday night? I know this great restaurant. Let me take you to it. I'll make the reservations. I'll pick you up at this time and we'll go. And he's going to pay for everything. What that guy is doing, he's stamping his masculinity immediately, right? And then what he's trying to say is, look, I can take care of you. I'm a man. And the things that you do, I respect that I can take care of you and I could lead. And usually that's more attractive to a woman, usually, unless the woman intentionally wants to date down because of whatever commitment issue she has or manipulation issue she has, or so on and so forth.
I won't say that that's not more attractive. What I found most attractive was someone taking the initiative to make the plans.
Right.
That part,
Sure.
Because the financing is immaterial if we're both coming to the table. Okay, you know.
Right. Sure.
So I think that that's kind of an equalizer there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think an alpha or someone who, so there's some alphas, or I hate saying that word because now you're right, it is very overused. The guys that I feel like are mentally
they're masculine. Yeah, they're more masculine men.
Some are like research types. So I've dated research types that they don't make a ton.
That's fine.
But right, and I thought it was fine too. And so that's why, and I found them just as attractive because of what they brought here.
Right. But you see, okay, so here's the difference. If a guy is a natural leader, right? If I'm making, okay, let's take me for example. Okay, last year I made about about 140,000. Now I'm in New Jersey, New York, whatever. So it's relative. I'm going to take you to a restaurant that maybe costs $200-300 for the both of us, right? So if you make 50,000, you could still make the plans. Just bring it to a restaurant that you could afford, so that you don't embarrass yourself. I mean, it's really not difficult, right? Yeah. Because if a guy says, look, and you know what you're getting into, right? So if you're dating a research guy that only makes $40,000-50,000 a year, whatever the case may be, and he goes, hey, you know, I have there's this great sports bar that I go to. That's where you can watch the basketball game. It could have wings and beers, but as long as he makes the plans and he's able to pay for it, right? He's putting himself in the position where he's not embarrassing himself, right? Where he doesn't have to say, I need half, or yeah, I'll take it, so on and so forth. It's not difficult, you know. Men just today's men
overthink it.
Yeah, today's men just don't know how to rationalize and reasonalize. And if the girl says, no, I don't like going to a sports bar or whatever the case may be, you know what? Tough shit. Then move on to the next girl. You're worth more than that.
Or if he cooks something and they take it to a park.
Yeah.
Prepare a lunch and take it to the park. I mean, if you can be that, I don't mean you have to be creative all the time, but if you don't have the means, there's other ways. And what they don't know is they're assuming when they meet me or some other girl that they're going to want all that top tier stuff. Right. When they don't know about someone, say like me, is that I have blue collar beginnings. I was we grew up poor, and in my town, Applebee's was
I still love Applebee's.
I still do too.
Still love Applebee's.
Like Applebee's was wow, this is the fancy restaurant in town.
Oh, okay.
And then if you really wanted to wine and dine, you drive an hour and a half, you go to Red Lobster.
Ooh, look out.
So what I mean is that
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they
yeah.
make assumptions based on where I'm at now, but they don't really know my beginnings.
Right.
I'll never get there if they keep trying to take me to
Right.
the $300 a plate where you get, by the way, elf portions. I'm not
Yeah.
paying
No, it's
$300 for elf portions.
you know what? Next time you're in New York or
I'm
New
an
Jersey,
eater.
and next time you're in New York and New Jersey, like if you do the New York Pro, right after
Yeah.
New York Pro, I'll take you to a nice Italian restaurant, right, where it's family
Yes.
style, where they give you more food than you know what you could do with, right?
Yes.
And believe me, you'll see there is absolutely no elf portions, but I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, believe.
Yes. If I go to a restaurant, I plan on eating.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
yeah.
shame. And what every man needs to know when they date a bodybuilder, female bodybuilders,
They're
we
going to
eat.
eat. Yes,
We're
yeah,
going to eat, and we'll
yeah.
probably eat more than you. And
Right,
that's just unless it's another bodybuilder,
right.
that's just a fact.
But
I'm
you know
not.
what? That is a promise. If you're on the East
I'm
Coast,
in.
yeah, that's a
I'm in.
promise. If you're on the East Coast, especially if you do the New York Pro, right?
I might, and because that's an early show,
Yeah,
it's really early in the year, which is why I tend not to do it. But in 2024, that would
right,
make sense because I'm taking a long off season,
right.
and I've always wanted to do that show. So yes,
Okay, so then I am gonna hold you to it, and then when
all
you're
right,
on the East Coast, I'm gonna take you to what I believe is one of the better Italian restaurants, and
love it,
we'll pig out.
glorious.
Jeanie, I just want to thank you very much for an interesting, stimulating, great interview. All right, you're a tremendous athlete and a tremendous person, and I truly, truly appreciate you coming on. Really, much love, much respect, always.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much.
Likewise, and don't go away. I got that question about my dog.
Great. And then should I tell everyone to?
Oh, Jesus, yes. I apologize.